Hey, yo, what is up, everybody? Coach Chad here, the CEO of the Act First Closing Academy. Hopefully you guys are doing amazing. We're going to get ripping. Let's get into it, okay? So what we're going to talk about in today's video is how do we figure out your prospect's why? Why the heck are they on this sales call? What is the deepest, most emotional, like literally the reason they could cry if you knew it? What is the reason they are on this sales call? Now, you may be asking like, Chad, why is that important? And if you don't know, I actually think figuring out like the deepest intrinsic reason why they are on the call, not the surface level why, which we'll get into a second, but like the deep reason why they're on the call is the most important part of your sales call. Because if we know this information, we have the ultimate leverage over any objection. So let's get into it, okay? So what is a surface level why? Because I think a lot of high ticket closers, we don't get past the surface level reason why they are on the call. So let's say that you're closing for a fitness company, okay? You get on a call with somebody, you ask them what inspired them to get on the call, and they say, I want to lose 50 pounds. And you say, oh, that's amazing. You know, why do you want to lose these 50 pounds, right? And maybe they say, oh, I want to look better, I want to feel better, I want to have more energy. That is the surface level reason why, right? And unfortunately, a lot of high ticket closers take that, write that down and say, okay, their why is they want more energy. That is the surface level reason why. And that is nowhere near enough leverage to help them overcome any objection. Think about it. Behind that, they have fear, insecurity, doubt on the reason why they're going to sign up, right? And a lot of that will show up in, hey, this is too much money. I got to talk to my spouse. I got to think about it, whatever their objection may be. And if all we have is they want more energy and we say, well, don't you want more energy? That's going to fall on deaf ears, right? So here's an example of the why of the why, the deepest reason why, all right? So let's use that same example. So, hey, you know, what inspired you to book in today's call? Oh, I want to lose 50 pounds. Oh, that's amazing. You know, like, why do you want to lose 50 pounds? Oh, I just want to look better, feel better. I really want more energy. You know, I just feel like really tired lately. Man, that's a bummer. Like, you know, how has that been affecting your life? Like not having the energy, how has that been affecting your life? Oh man, like, you know, when I get home, you know, I really want to be able to play with my kids. My kids always say like, Dad, let's go outside, let's go outside. I'm freaking exhausted, man. Like, I just want to sit on the couch and honestly, that's kind of eating away at me. Eating away at you? You know, what do you mean? Like, why is that eating away at you? You tell me a little bit more. Well, man, like before I had kids, I told myself like I wouldn't have kids unless I was like a better father than my dad. And unfortunately, my dad, you know, he would come home and he would just sit on the couch and he wouldn't do shit with me. And you know, I really hated that. And I feel like, you know, I'm kind of mirroring that. I'm becoming my dad and it's eating away at me. Boom! That is the why of the why. And that is the leverage that we need to close deals, right? Because if somebody says, hey man, like, I don't know, like I'm just not sure if I have the money for this, right? We can combat that and say like, well, what's more valuable, right? Not being your dad and becoming the best version of a dad that you can be, or, you know, saving the $2,000 that it takes to invest into this program, right? We have a lot more leverage, emotional leverage to get them to overcome that hurdle of swiping their damn credit card. Okay, so we understand what a surface level why is. We understand what the deep why of the why is. So how the fuck do we find it, right? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. I'm going to give you the exact questions that you need to ask to unearth the why of the why. Let's get into the scripting of this. So the very first question that I ask on a sales call, and it's not like they pop on the Zoom and I ask this question right away. No, we build a little rapport, right? I explain what's going to happen on the call, and then we get into the why of the why section. But finding the why of the why is the very first objective that I want to accomplish on this sales call. So I start with a very general and open-ended question. So basically the way that you want to view it is when you're trying to figure out the why of the why, it's like a funnel. So at the top of the funnel, we're going to ask the most open-ended general questions. And as we work through the script, the questions are going to get more pointed and more specific, okay? So basically my very first question is I'll say, all right, Steve, so tell me, you know, like what inspired you to book a call to improve your, and then whatever it is that you're trying to help them improve, your business, your fitness, your marriage, whatever it is. So let's just say it's fitness, okay? Because we've been using that as the example. All right, Steve, so, you know, let me know what inspired you to book a call to improve your health and fitness. Very general, very open-ended. Now, the reason we do that is because we want to see where they go with it, right? If I asked a very specific question there, I would get a specific answer, and I don't have have really any information on why they're on the call. So I'm leaving this open-ended in general to see where they go with it. Now, I will take the information that they provide me and I will follow it up. So let's just say that they want to lose weight, right? And let's just say they want to lose 50 pounds. We'll just go with the same example. Okay, I'm going to follow that up and say like, okay, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. How has not losing these 50 pounds, how has that affected your life? All right, so now we're starting to ask questions that are a little bit more pointed, right? And when it comes to the why, we want to know, how is this thing affecting not just your health and fitness, but how is it affecting your life? Because the leverage, the emotional leverage is probably gonna come from the reason why this person can't lose weight and how it's affecting their life at large, which in the previous example that we gave, right, it was the individual didn't feel like the best father they could be, right? Maybe they don't feel like the best husband they could be, right? So we're gonna start general. We're gonna say, hey, what inspired you to book a call to improve your health and fitness? We're gonna take the information they provide and we're gonna say, man, how is not having that, affecting your life? Now, from there, whatever they say, right, we're probably gonna have to dig a little bit deeper. Just like in the example I did, right? It was weight loss. Weight loss is affecting my energy. Tell me more. Well, that's affecting my ability to be a father. Tell me more. Oh, it's because when I grew up, I had a shitty father, right? So at this point, once we say what has been affected in your life, we're gonna follow up and say, so tell me more, Steve. Like, how is that really affecting you? Like, I'm curious. Tell me a little bit more, right? So, let's give you the example. Let's backtrack here. I'm getting ahead of myself, right? So what inspired you to get on this call? Oh, I want to lose 50 pounds. Man, like, how is not losing these 50 pounds, how has this affected your life? Well, I'm just not feeling like very energized. Well, tell me more about that, Steve. Like, how is having low energy affected your life? Well, I'm not able to be the best father. Okay. How does that feel? Like, tell me more there. That probably doesn't feel so great. No, it doesn't, because XYZ, my father was a shitbag, right? So that is the example. From there, what we want to do, right, we're getting more and more pointed. The next question we want to ask is we want to say, all right, man, well, like, hey, really appreciate you being vulnerable there. Out of curiosity, like, out of all the times in your life, why is now the time that you want to solve this? All right, because we want to know why now. Because usually with these, coaching and consulting programs, there was something that happened that was like a trigger. And usually it's some sort of emotional trigger. And as we know, emotional triggers only last so long. They tend to fleet out, right? That's why, individuals, like, they have motivation to lose weight, and if they don't get started, all that motivation wanes. So we want to figure out basically what was the thing that inspired them to say, hey, I got to make this change now. Right? So I'll ask that question. I'll say, all right, man, well, look, I really appreciate your vulnerability. Out of all the times in your life, why is now the time for you to make this change, right? Maybe they say something to the effect of like, man, I was walking up the stairs, or let's stick with our example. Man, my son came up to me and said, hey, Dad, can we go play basketball? I went to go play basketball with him and it only lasted 5 freaking minutes. And I had to I was huffing and puffing. I was out of breath. I had to tell him like, hey man, I can't do this right now. Like, I'm really tired. And I had to lie to him. I didn't want to tell him I was out of shape. Boom, right? We are getting more and more information. And once we have that information, we can follow it up. And this is an opportunity to do a soft sell. So literally in the beginning of the call, I'm already starting to do a soft sell, right? So I'll follow it up and be like, man, that must have been really tough. How much longer can you handle this? Right? So now I'm trying to put a little bit of pressure on it, right? I'm trying to get him to say, well, not much longer, right? And once he says, well, honestly, that's why I'm here. I can't handle this much longer, increasing urgency, right? I'm going to follow it up and say all right, man, safe to say you're ready to make a change then? Boom, he says, yes, I'm ready to make a change. I've already gotten a soft commitment and I'm 5 minutes into the freaking call. All right, so everything I just did there was define his current situation. I was digging deep, pulling out emotional pain points of what he's experiencing currently. Now we're gonna flip it. We're gonna go positive and we're gonna figure out what his desired state is. Now we're still trying to find that why, the why, right? So all these questions are unearthing the why of the why. So what that transition looks like is I would say, all right, man, so look, I have a really good understanding of your current situation, but let's go positive here. You know, like, where do you want to be with your health and fitness? Like, what's the ultimate vision, right? Once again, keeping that open-ended, trying to see where he goes with it. From there, once I get an answer, I'm going to say, man, that would be freaking amazing. You know, how would that affect your life? If you were able to accomplish that, like, how would that affect your life? Once again, tying back what he said, his desired result, to his ultimate life, to see what information we can gather there. From there, the same thing, right? We're going to say, hey, tell me more. You know, what do you mean by that, right? We're going to start digging a little bit deeper to see if we can take, you know, unearth any more information. If they say like, nope, that's pretty much it, right? Then we know that we shouldn't be asking like, tell me more anymore. All right, now the very last question, okay? This is the tie down to ensure that you have the why. So do you have to ask all these questions that I just went through every single time? No, you don't have to, right? Whenever, throughout this sequence, if there's any point where you feel like, hey, I have the why, you could drop the line that I'm about to give you as a tester to see if you have it. If it ends up not working, then you can continue through the script. But what you're gonna say is, you're gonna say, all right, man, so look, you know, it sounds like to me the biggest reason you're on the call is blankety blankety blank. Repeat whatever you think it is. Is that right? Or is there more? I love the way that I structure this, because I'm either gonna get a yes, that I have it, and at that point I know I can move on in the script, or I've also opened the door, so it wastes no time. I've also opened the door that if I don't have it, they could say something to the effect of like, yeah, you kind of have it, but also, blah, and then they fill in the blank. All right, so that is the exact scripting, okay? We figure out their current situation, elect all the emotional pain, we flip it, we go positive, we figure out their desired result. Throughout the whole entire script, we're tying back the current situation and the desired situation to how it is currently impacting their life and how the positive situation could positively impact their life. And then whenever we feel like we have it, we drop them with that one-liner. You know, if I'm hearing you correctly, the biggest reason you're here today is blankety blank. Is that right? Or is there more? All right, y'all, that's gonna conclude the video. Do not underestimate this. Go back, watch it as many times as you need, because if you do not have the why, you do not have enough leverage to overcome objections. All right, that's it for me. Peace out.